So I might have ruined this guitar a few years ago, but I want to tell the story about it because I think it's kind of cool. It's still one of my favorite guitars. And I did a video that was like Clapton's secret weapon with this guitar, and it did really well. I didn't expect it to, but every time I watch that video, I feel like I didn't really give this guitar and what I did to it enough attention. So I kind of glossed over it in that video, but I want to talk about it. So this guitar it's become kind of a Frankenstein, unfortunately. It's a 1992 made in Japan Fender Strat, and I bought it off the wall, used at a music shop that I was taking guitar lessons at. And, it was my first real Strat. And I was, I guess I'm still having this struggle these days as to like who I am when it comes to guitars. But I knew I wanted a Strat, and I knew I wanted a Strat, but I also knew I really liked Eric Clapton, and I really liked the way his Strat sounded, particularly in the early 90s. And through some research, I figured out, hey, he has a special sort of electronics suite in his guitars. So, I can't remember if I bought the guitar knowing I was going to hack it up, or if it became just like, hey, this is the Strat I have, I might as well do it to this one. Now, unfortunately, this is not the original neck. The truss rod went south and it needed a refret, so I actually just bought a Mexican 50s V kind of shape neck here. I still like the original neck a lot better, but it's just not worth saving. I put some locking tuners on it. I put these different Graph Tech bridge saddles on there because I was breaking a ton of strings, probably more due to my playing style than anything. But ultimately what I did then is I found an Eric Clapton Stratocaster wired loaded pickguard on eBay. And, young student, didn't have very much money. I was thinking, hey, this is an economical way to get that Clapton Strat thing. I mean, if I actually added up how much money I spent on this, it was definitely more expensive than a Clapton Strat. But that's neither here nor there. So what I did was I bought this on eBay, and then I took it to the guy that works on my guitars, and I said, hey, can we put this thing into this guitar? And he said yes, but there's a few things that we're going to have to do. So let's talk about what this is before we get into that. So Fender lace sensor pickups, you can see they look different. They don't have the exposed pole pieces. There's 3 different varieties. These are the gold ones. That's what Clapton used. He's now switched to the noiseless pickups. Still with, though, the active mid-boost circuitry that is under the hood here. So 5-way selector switch still works the same way as it always did. Bridge. The second position. Middle. The fourth. And then my favorite, the 5th neck position. So that's all the same. But once you get down into the tone knobs, that's where things get a little bit different. The middle tone knob here has a detent. And this is the TBX tone circuit, so it's kind of a master tone. And then here's full out. Here's the detent. And then here's the tone rolled all the way off. I usually like to keep it above that detent. And here's why. This tone knob right here is your 24 decibel mid boost. Okay, so I've gotten a lot of people making comments about this, like, isn't it just a boost pedal? Can't you just do this with an EQ pedal and crank, the volume on that? Yeah, you can, but this is a knob, so you get sort of like this entire sweep of boosts. Here's about halfway up. Let's go. Here's full. it does the Clapton thing really nicely. And this TBX tone circuit helps you kind of counteract any muddiness that might be coming out of boosting all that mid-range on your guitar. So the reason why I say, did I ruin this guitar, is because, I mean, it's not a vintage, well, I guess technically it's a vintage instrument now, being made in 1992-ish. But I ruined it, wrong neck, swapped the tuners, swapped the bridge saddles. All the electronics are gone. I do still have the pickups, but, they're nothing crazy to write home about. But the big problem is the Clapton Strats, free Apple advertisement here. The Clapton Strats had the battery carved, because it requires a 9-volt battery, right in the back here in the tremolo spring cavity. I didn't know that, and I think in an effort to not destroy the back of this guitar, my luthier, Mark, decided to route out some more space underneath the pickguard for that battery. Now, that is, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, which is good. But switching that battery out sucks because you got to take the entire pickguard off. Also, we've kind of hacked up the inside of the guitar. So, did I ruin a perfectly good and fine made in Japan Fender Strat that probably would be a nice piece to have in its entirety at this point in my collection? Yes, I did. But I think this thing sounds pretty cool. I mean, it's awesome. I'm just plugged straight into my deluxe reverb. It's got a little, reverb and delay on it, but it rips. It kind of rips. So what this did, though, is for like 10 years, this was my only Strat. And I found myself in a lot of scenarios where it's like, hey, you could really use an actual Stratocaster, which I did not have. So there was a time where there was an issue here where the battery was draining even though nothing was plugged into the guitar, because that's another thing to note about an active system, is that much like an acoustic guitar, if you leave it plugged in, the battery's going to die. This started to die when nothing was plugged into it. It turned out it was a problem with the jack, where it kept thinking that there was a cable plugged into it and the battery just continually drained. That happened to me like 3 times, one of which I discovered on a gig right as we were about to start, and that sucked. So I found the original pickups that are still on that pickguard, and I took it to Mark, the guy who took all of them out originally, and I was about to have him just take these out, because I was like, I'm not using this guitar. I used to think it was the jack of all trades guitar because it kind of sounds like a Les Paul. It's also a Strat, blah, blah, blah. But I'm finding myself I really don't need it. So let's just switch it back to what it should be. And I hesitated. I stopped actually because, let's see. I got this, the PRS Silver Sky, which for all intents and purposes is, that traditional Strat thing. Now, what's funny about that is I still don't have a real Strat. Like, yeah, I have this, but that doesn't say Fender on it. Still don't have one. I have the modified one. I have the PRS version, which of course is highly polarizing across many channels as to whether or not it should exist or why it exists or how it compares to a Strat or a vintage Strat, whatever. But I don't have one still. And I feel like the Silver Sky, I like it so much, it's sort of like stopped that search. But ultimately, my original, and I've covered this in other videos, my very favorite guitar, the first one I pined after was a Sunburst Fender Strat. And I've never owned one. I had a copy as my first guitar, but it's still out there. So maybe down the road, that's in my future. But as it stands, thanks to this guitar and the hack job that I did on it, and then eventually the PRS Silver Sky, I still don't have a real Strat. So I don't know. I'm not sure what that says about me. I also don't have a real Les Paul. I don't have a real Telly. It's kind of a weird thing I got going on over here. I'm in a transitionary period with regard to guitars, but there's more to come on that Telly. I'm gonna have one soon. But of course, I'm gonna switch it up and change things on it. So I would love to know though, like, have you ever played a real Clapton Strat and do you like it? Now, what I found is that I've gotten so used to this guitar, how it feels. I'm not a huge fan of the color, to be honest with you. The Photo Flame Maple fake thing is not my favorite. It's a real thick poly coat that's like kind of cracking on the back. But it feels great. It really does feel great. And even the new Mexican neck that I have on here is really comfortable. And I like it. It's not quite as deep of a V as the one that originally came on here. But it's a very comfortable guitar to play. And I like it better, especially than the newer Clapton Strats. The mid-90s, the early 90s Strats that they made, they were different. I like those a lot more. And if I was going to buy a Clapton Strat, I probably would go for one of those as opposed to something new. So, but again, like this kind of scratches that itch. So I don't really need one of those things. But hey, if money were no object, I'd probably have one. So, but I would love to know, have you ever played a Clapton Strat? What do you think of it? Do you think the mid boost is at all like practical or usable, or is it totally gimmicky? I've gone back and forth on that. It doesn't really, the problem with this guitar is also the coolest thing about it. It's not really a Strat. It doesn't sound like a traditional Strat. These don't behave like passive single coil pickups. But it also doesn't really sound like a Les Paul. It's kind of this weird middle ground, which has been really, really fun and really, really cool. But it's also been a little bit annoying as I've become more well-educated on guitar tones. And, there's a reason why Les Pauls, Strats, and Tellys are kind of the basis for everything, because they just each do some things incredibly well that don't need to be changed. They were perfect from the beginning. So that's where I sit. Do you think I ruined this guitar? I don't know. I mean, from the outside, I don't think it looks that way. But certainly if you opened it up, you'd be like, I mean, it's a good job. It's good work. Don't get me wrong. But you might say, boy, you could have gone and gotten a different Strat to destroy. But hey, in the meantime, I'll just play all my Clapton riffs on this thing.